When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With twinspires, you can place your bets with confidence. Whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with twinspires. And now you can race to victory with twinspires tournaments.
Welcome back to the twinspires Racing Roundtable. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Vance Hanson, coming to you a day late. We were in New Orleans for the Louisiana Derby, and some of us had Ohio Valley allergy issues when we returned. But we were here on a Wednesday to talk the Louisiana Derby, the Jeff Ruby Steaks at Turfway Park. Good cheer, who is unbeaten after the Fairgrounds Oaks and heading to the Kentucky Oaks next. And we'll also look at performances that caught our eye and some big upsets as well from the weekend of racing. Let's start off with those two Derby preps where we had Tistastic win the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby, the twinspires.com Louisiana Derby, and we also had Final Gambit for Brad Cox win the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. Vance, of those two winners this week who each got 100 points for their win toward the Kentucky Derby leaderboard, which do you think will finish higher, I guess I should say, in the Kentucky Derby?
A safe bet would probably be Tistastic, given his experience both in general and over dirt. But I would say that probably the better play might be Final Gambit, who's really come into his own after jumping from maiden to Jeff Ruby winner in one race, closing from way behind to win. He hasn't run on dirt yet, as I've mentioned, and I think Juddmonte and trainer Brad Cox are going to see how he trains over the dirt in the coming weeks and actually decide whether they want to pursue the Kentucky Derby or not with him. But I would have to think that, given the fast paces that we've seen in recent Kentucky Derbies, I think that the pace scenario would really set up well for him. And going back to Tistastic, he was pretty lukewarm on the wagering board in the Louisiana Derby for a reason. He had been seemingly well exposed going into the Louisiana Derby, and the fact that he just kind of popped up and finally got the job done at 7-1, winning for the first time on dirt. So to answer your question again, I would have to say Final Gambit's probably the better play to outfinish Tistastic in the Derby from my perspective at this point.
James, do you agree?
No. I think it's Tistastic. I mean, you could say he's been exposed, but I would say there's been like Derby winners that have been exposed early in their career who were, they just needed racing and they eventually got better. And, whether it was types like Unbridled or Spend a Buck, or there's other examples as well. And, Tistastic to me, I look at his race record. He's two-time Turf Stakes winner as a juvenile. He placed in his next three dirt stakes. He ran second in the Street Sense, third in the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill Downs. Those are respectable efforts. He opened the year with the third in the Southwest, and he had one substandard performance by his previous standards where he caught a forward playing track in the Rebel and just sort of ran an even fifth that day. Didn't make up a lot of ground from off the pace. But to me, he was running speed ratings in the 80s last year. When he opened the year with a third in the Rebel, he ran a 90, and then he got 100 in the Louisiana Derby. So to me, he's a horse that is moving forward at the right time. There's these 3-year-old division right now, in my eyes. I mean, they're not; these horses aren't putting up big numbers. Citizen Bull got a 96 for winning the his opener in the Lewis. Sovereignty got a 99 in the Fountain of Youth. So those horses still have their final prep to come, while Tistastic had his in the Louisiana Derby. But my point is that he took a major step forward in that race, and he got 100 speed rating. And if he takes another step forward in the Derby and runs a 105, he's in the mix for at least a top 3 finish. I mean, he's got a chance to me to maybe hit the board in the Derby right now. And if everything goes right for him, he could be an upset contender. Because I know, even with journalism, he's the standard bearer with a 104 in his last prep, but he got a 99 winning the Los Al Futurity. So to me, these 3-year-olds that are in the Derby mix, aren't that fast numbers wise, and you have a horse that's improving at the right time like Tistastic, I liked his effort. And now he did save ground from off the pace early on when he was in ninth. But find me another winner on that card that's closing 4 wide off the far turn like he is. And the other thing with him is that, to me, in his previous dirt stakes attempts, he's been more of a stretch runner. I mean, watch that turn of foot he shows on the far turn at Fairgrounds. He makes up a lot of ground quickly, passes a lot of horses. That's the kind of move you need to make at Churchill Downs on Derby Day. So he has something going for him. He's going to have to keep stepping up and getting better. The competition's going to be a lot better, but in a sense, he's the better Derby contender right now. Final Gambit, first time out, ran on turf. He's running 3 dirt races. He broke his maiden 2 starts back. He's certainly a progressing type with a potential, a lot of upside for Brad Cox. Whether that comes on dirt or turf, we'll see. He's certainly earned a chance at the Derby. Vance made some good points that the race can fall apart sometimes. And, if he takes the dirt, he's going to be running late. But I'll take Tistastic. I think he's a better 3-year-old right now for the Kentucky Derby.
I agree with you there on a lot of those points. And you have to respect the fact that Tistastic has placed in several of these road to the Kentucky Derby prep races and then had that huge leap with the 100 Brisnet speed figure. We also had Final Gambit with a 101, and he had a 112 late pace rating. But again, he hasn't raced on a main track yet in his career, so that'll be the first time ever in the Derby if we do see him show up. But Tistastic seems to be turning a corner coming on. Steve Asmussen said he really needed to step forward in this race, and he did, nearly covering the distance of the Derby, racing 1 mile and 3/16 here, which we're looking at Final Gambit at 1 mile and 1/8 in the Jeff Ruby, but that's okay. So Tistastic, back to him, he is now going to be coming in. He's a leaderboard with 119 on the leaderboard with 119 points in first place on that leaderboard. And both of these horses that won this weekend, though, do have pedigrees that would lend themselves to going longer distances, but going to stick with Tistastic here. And the Louisiana Derby the last several years we had the 4th place finisher in Catching Freedom. He was 4th in the Derby, won the Louisiana Derby. Then we had 2 winners recently in Mandaloon, who was elevated to 1st. Plus we had Country House come out of the Louisiana Derby. So this has been a significant prep heading into the Kentucky Derby. Let's move over to the Fairgrounds Oaks, where Good Cheer remained unbeaten from 6 starts now. Does she have a weakness, James?
Well, I mean, her next start's at Kentucky Oaks. She's going to be the big favorite in there. And I just think, if she gets beat in the Kentucky Oaks, perhaps it's going to be the race dynamics. I mean, she certainly hasn't been in any fast-paced races, and she's going to be in a 14-horse field probably, so she'll have to negotiate traffic. But, I mean, she's got a lot going for her. She's extremely formidable. She's shown a real affinity for Churchill Downs. So, I'm not going to knock her too much, but yeah, I mean, she's going to have to deal with different circumstances in a sense, but there's no reason to think that she won't have a good chance to handle those circumstances.
Vance, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the main weakness is going to be her price on the Oaks. I mean, she will be a better price in the Kentucky Oaks than she has been in probably her last 5 starts, where she's been an odds-on favorite. So her longtime backers will appreciate a little bit of juice in the price. But I mean, in general, you're just not going to get any value on her whatsoever. And we've seen some heavy favorites lose this race in recent years. So that's the primary knock. I think if I had to come up with another one, I've read that she's been described as kind of a light-framed filly by trainer Brad Cox, and he likes the long spacing between starts. She's going to get about 6 weeks until the Kentucky Oaks, and the fact that he thinks of her in that fashion, and add to that the fact that she's going to be facing the largest field she's ever going to have to face in the Kentucky Oaks. I mean, it's open to 14 starters, and The Fairgrounds Oaks was actually the largest field she's ever had to run against so far, and that was only against what, 7 or 8 rivals. And so, add another 4 or 5 fillies to the mix, and she's going to have to work out a trip in some form or fashion to get the money in the Oaks. But she's a deserving favorite, and she'll be very tough to beat.
Yeah, and she was excuse me, she was able to race up close too on Saturday in that race. I mean, she was always like within a few lengths of the lead. And, Saez did a good job, I think, because he was worried about like having to make up ground in the stretch from off the pace on the track to sort of like he launched her earlier in that race, I thought, and he pretty much was drawing even on the far turn. So, yeah, Vance is right. I mean, she's going to have to work out potentially a trip from way far back if the pace is hot in the Oaks. So, that's going to be a something she hasn't dealt with in these prep races. But the 3-year-old filly division just doesn't seem that deep. But we do have some races coming up over the next couple weekends, and maybe we'll see some nice performances and some better competition materialize. But right now, she just seems superior to the rest in a sense.
Yeah, that was something we talked about with Joe Christopher this weekend. James, when you talked to him in an interview, he mentioned maybe this division's not that deep. So is good cheer that good, or is it just that the rest of the division is not up to par with her, but overall a little bit lighter on competition this year? I do feel like she is obviously the horse to beat. She has 3 wins at Churchill. That's where she's heading back for the Kentucky Oaks. And Vance, as you mentioned, she hasn't faced a ton of rivals. She faced 7 this past weekend at Fairgrounds, and that was the most that she has had to overcome or beat in a field so far. The other issue is she hasn't broken beyond post 6 yet. So if she gets that outside draw, does that play a factor? Could that cause her any trouble in the Kentucky Oaks when you have a much deeper field? So those are 2 variables there. But overall, she is the best 3-year-old filly at the moment. Her numbers are a little light on Brisnet past performances, but she is pace dependent as well. So you can kind of make excuses for why she doesn't have any huge numbers. I think her career best is 90 or 92 back in the rags. No, actually a 93 in her allowance when her second career start. So she had a 90, an 89, and a 90 in her last 3 starts. But again, she comes from off the pace. So we'll see where she draws in the Kentucky Oaks. I will be a little apprehensive if she gets the far outside, but I think she still is by far currently the best filly, unless we see somebody in the next couple weeks change our minds. All right, well, to close out, we have, as always, what else caught your eye from the weekend? Vance, what was that for you?
The Munoz Memorial, the main turf race for older horses, produced a boxcar payoff winner, and I'd rather be blessed to just walk the dog on the front end at a huge price. What was it, $184 to win on this horse? And this was kind of supposed to be kind of a showcase for a couple of Chad Brown runners. Spirit of St. Louis was coming off of a victory in the Pegasus World Cup turf, and redistricting was supposed to put in kind of a full campaign for the first time this year, and both were well played in this race, but neither of them showed punch against a huge long shot. Now, granted, the pace was pretty slow, but those horses just on paper look much classier than the winner, and the fact that they didn't show much punch in the stretch, kind of makes you wonder, whether they're going to rise to the top of the American Turf male division this year. Now, granted, I wouldn't be too surprised if either one of them came back in the Turf Classic on Derby Day and ran pretty big, kind of as a bounce back effort. But this was not an encouraging effort by those two against such a huge long shot.
Yeah, I wish I had that one. Did you have that in your pick 3s, James?
No, I did not. I agree with what Van said. I mean, not only both redistricting and Spirit of St. Louis off that Pegasus World Cup turf, but even like Brilliant Birdie and Rebel Red, 2 other horses I thought were win contenders that potentially just were flat as well. Didn't make any impact. Couldn't even challenge for a top 3 placing. So, it was a day of like upsets for those older stakes. I know you'll get to the other one, Ashley, but I was stunned in back-to-back races there Saturday with the Munoz and the New Orleans
Classic.
Yeah, my what else though? Since you guys are going to talk about those Fairgrounds performances, I'll turn to Oaklawn and mention Kimchi Cat. She came back on Saturday in six furlong stake race, and really turned in a sharp performance. Pressed a hot pace to the stretch, and then drew off to win by almost 5 lengths. And really good comeback performance for this Tom Amoss trained filly. She broke her maiden the second time out, going 5.5 furlongs at Saratoga, and really looked good doing so. Came back in the Bolton Landing, which was off the turf, a sprint, and just turned in another real sharp win. And was actually favored in the 1 mile Pocahontas, the grade 3 Pocahontas at Churchill Downs last fall. And something went wrong in that race. She basically was almost ease. And this was her first race since then. So she looks real good right now for Tom Amoss moving forward. I could certainly see Kimchi Cat pointing for a race like the grade 2 8 Bells and potentially being a top contender for that race. The other thing about the Purple Mountain was it was a bummer to see Accelerating not fire in her comeback. She had been so impressive, winning her first 2 starts at Saratoga last summer for Steve Asmus, and didn't get off to a good start from the innermost post and just didn't fire, but perhaps she can bounce back next time.
I'll take it back to Fairgrounds for that New Orleans Classic upset where Touch Upon a Star, he ended up getting the win in gate to wire fashion. He actually last year in the New Orleans Classic set a hot pace and was caught late by Red Route 1, who was also racing on Saturday, but over at Oaklawn and won the grade 3 Essex. And Touch Upon a Star, we're watching the replay right now, set a slightly slower, I think it was half-mile pace, but then actually had quicker fractions after that. But he was going up against the Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Sierra Leone, who was there with a couple others for Chad Brown. Chad was in town as well at the Fairgrounds to watch this race, and it just wasn't a track that was favoring closers for the most part on Saturday, and Touch Upon a Star got away with those, with going gate to wire here. And then, of course, we had Super Bowl quarterback Jake Delhomme at the Fairgrounds as well, and he was there to celebrate afterward. We have a little clip, I believe, from his post-race interview.
Could have gone in the Star Guitar. I know you like to win races.
Yeah. No, we do. And listen, it was a tough decision. I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight and tomorrow, because all week long you want to make the right decision, and not for your ego. You want to make it for the horse. But he was doing so well, and Timmy worked him a couple of weeks ago, like the 2 weeks prior, in essence, and Timmy came off the track and he said, I don't know if he's ever been better. And we can see that and just everything. And so that always in the back of my mind now, Sierra Leone, all these animals in this race. I think it was a tougher race than last year, to be very honest. I'm not putting anybody down, but him to get out 24 and then get 47-2, and just watching him the way we felt we were loaded. I hate to sound that way. It's just yesterday morning when he galloped, it was about 6:55, and Jeff and I were watching him, and he came by, and I swear to you, it was like he was floating on air. And I was like, okay, you made the right decision, because I made my decision probably on Wednesday that, hey, we're going, we're going to take a shot. So I'm happy. The people, we're from Louisiana, right? We like our homegrown things. Like, this is a homegrown horse born.
Take a look around here.
He's a fan favorite. I was a fan favorite of, his father, obviously, right? Hallowed Dreams, all those Louisiana breds that were great Louisiana breds. You're fans of those horses. And so we're just blessed to have him. And hey, man, it's fun. We get to go to the track every single day, every morning, and I don't think there's any doubt. We love all our horses, but, man, it's nice walking down the shed row. I know for Dad and Jeff and I, the big animals right down in his stall. It's just something about him. He's just got class, and, yeah, you always love good horses. We treat everything the same, but he's just a special, special horse. And the breeders, they're fantastic here in Louisiana, and I can thank so many people. Andrew Carey, who bred the horse. Everybody. It's just, man, I'm so excited. Usually I'm not a loss for words, you know what I'm saying? But this is awesome, man. It might be a once in a lifetime, right? So might as well enjoy it. What the hell?
I'm super happy for you. One of the most memorable New Orleans classics and races that I've experienced here. Glad you ran in this race, Jake.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad. And so much respect to these horses. I mean, I'll be very honest. I had a big future wager on Sierra Leone last year in the Derby. I love that horse. I'm a huge fan of that horse. And I can't wait to, at some point to breed to him. But just it's an honor and a privilege to run against those types.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Memorable to say.
Never
Yeah,
at a loss for words.
Almost as fun as winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
I will say,
don't bring that up. You know what
Sierra
happened.
Leone never fired for me off the pace, but Hall of Fame had him in his sights. I mean, he was like a length back of him at the top of the stretch. So, Touch Upon a Star had to have something left, and he did to, turn him back because Jose Ortiz had gotten Hall of Fame, I thought, into a position where he could have reeled him in if he didn't have another gear.
Yeah, actually, I didn't watch that interview yet, and Jake was talking about all the confidence. And when I talked to Tim Thornton after the race, he said he felt like he had a lot of horse. Like he was feeling really good coming into that race too. And especially, comparing it to how it felt last year when he also had the early lead, but got caught late. Like he knew for sure this race, they knew they had a winner. So cool to see. And I feel like, James, we got to get you with Jake Delhomme in an interview because he's always on the muscle too.
Yeah.
James is like, I don't. All right, well, that's all the time we have today. We will be back next Tuesday to talk some racing recaps, Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby. And then tomorrow it is the Twinspires jury for our best bets and fades in those races as well. So we'll see you next time.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.